In the late 19th century, the great city of London stood as the most powerful and crowded city in the world. Millions of people lived and worked here under the rule of the British Empire, filling its streets with endless movement and life. The city was famous across the globe for its wealth, massive industries, and rapid growth. Tall factories produced goods day and night, while ships from distant lands arrived at the docks. But beneath the shining image of London's prosperity, another darker world quietly existed. Away from the rich districts and bright boulevards were neighborhoods where survival was a daily struggle. In the eastern part of the city stood a district known as Whitechapel. It was a crowded and troubled area, filled with poverty, narrow alleys, and thousands of people trying to survive. Every year, immigrants and workers from different countries arrived in Whitechapel, hoping to find opportunity in the factories, workshops, and shipping docks of London. But the reality was harsh. Jobs were scarce, wages were extremely low, and many people struggled simply to find enough money to eat. Entire families were often forced to live together in small, dirty rooms inside cheap lodging houses. Privacy was rare, and comfort was almost impossible. Hunger, crime, and violence were common parts of daily life in these crowded streets. For many residents, every day was a battle just to survive. Yet no one could imagine that these dark streets would soon become the stage for one of the most terrifying mysteries in criminal history. On the early morning of August 31st, 1888, a man walking through the quiet streets of Whitechapel made a discovery that would shock the entire city. Lying on the cold pavement was the body of a woman. The streets were silent, but the scene suggested something terrible had happened during the night. The victim was later identified as Mary Ann Nichols, a 43-year-old woman who had spent years struggling with poverty and homelessness. Like many women living in Whitechapel, Nichols often walked the streets late at night, hoping to earn a few coins to pay for a bed in a lodging house. When police officers arrived at the scene, they quickly realized this was not a simple accident or ordinary street crime. Nichols' throat had been cut deeply and violently, leaving investigators stunned by the brutality of the attack. Even experienced officers who had seen many crimes were shocked by the condition of the body and the cruelty of the murder. However, at the time, investigators believed it might simply be another tragic crime in a district already known for danger. But only 8 days later, a second, shocking discovery would prove that something far more terrifying was happening. Another woman had been murdered in Whitechapel. Her name was Annie Chapman, a 47-year-old woman living in extreme poverty. Just like Nichols, Chapman had been seen walking through the streets late at night, desperately searching for money. Early the next morning, her body was discovered in the backyard of a small house in the district. Once again, investigators saw the same horrifying detail. Her throat had been cut in a similar manner to the previous victim. But this time, the crime scene revealed something even more disturbing and deeply unsettling. The attacker had mutilated the body with shocking precision, suggesting that the killer might possess knowledge of anatomy. This discovery frightened investigators and raised a terrifying possibility. Police began to fear that a serial killer might be hunting women in the streets of Whitechapel. As rumors spread throughout the neighborhood, fear quickly took hold of the community. Women became afraid to walk alone during the night, even for the shortest distance. Families began locking their doors earlier than before, and many people refused to leave their homes after dark. Police officers increased patrols throughout the district, searching the streets and questioning suspicious individuals. Yet, despite these efforts, the mysterious killer seemed to disappear without leaving any useful clues. Then came the night of September 30th, 1888. It was a night that would soon become infamous in the history of crime and investigation. Later, investigators would refer to this terrifying night as the double event. The first victim that night was Elizabeth Stride, another woman living in the difficult conditions of Whitechapel. Her body was discovered in a narrow yard, close to a busy street, just like the earlier victims. Her throat had been cut by the attacker. However, investigators noticed something unusual about this particular crime scene. The injuries were less severe than those seen in the previous murders. Police believed the killer may have been interrupted before he could finish the attack, but the night's violence was far from over. Less than an hour later, another shocking discovery was made only a short distance away. The victim was Catherine Ito's crime scene was far more brutal and horrifying than the others. Investigators quickly realized that the killer had struck twice within the same night. The news of these murders spread quickly across London and terrified the public newspapers. Published dramatic headlines describing the unknown killer haunting the streets. Soon, the story spread far beyond London, reaching readers across Britain and even around the world. Then police received something completely unexpected. A letter arrived claiming to be written by the mysterious killer himself. The writer mocked the police and described the murders with disturbing confidence. At the end of the letter, the writer signed a name that would soon become legendary. The name written on the page was Jack the Ripper. No one knew whether the letter truly came from the killer or from someone seeking attention, but the terrifying name quickly spread through newspapers and captured the imagination of the public. From that moment on, the mysterious murderer finally had an identity in the eyes of the world. Police launched one of the largest investigations ever seen in Victorian London. Hundreds of suspects were questioned, including doctors, butchers, sailors, and known criminals. Yet despite all the effort and investigation, none of the suspects could be proven guilty. After the final known murder of Mary Jane Kelly on November 9, 1888, the killings suddenly stopped him. The mysterious killer known as Jack the Ripper vanished into history, leaving behind one of the greatest unsolved mysteries the world has ever known.